right, you need to leave now. Kamara said firmly, I'll drive you to wherever you need to go, but you can't stay here. The girls exchanged a glance and nodded. Fine, Kesho said, we'll go, but you have to promise not to call the police. I promise, Kamara replied, relief flooding over him. As Kamara began cleaning up the mess in the office, he heard a loud thud behind him. He turned to see Kesho holding a flower vase, a wreaked grin on her face. Before he could react, she swung it at his head, and everything went black. In the quiet city of Kampala lived a respected builder named Kamara. Known for his creativity and dedication, Kamara had designed many of the city's most iconic buildings. His wife Gloria was equally accomplished. She was a successful teacher who taught at the biggest school in the city. Together, they had two bright and lively children, a boy and a girl. They also had a loyal dog who was as much part of the family as any of them. It was a special weekend, Father's Day, and the city was alive with excitement. Families gathered to celebrate, sharing meals and stories. However, this year was different for Kamara. Due to a recent shoulder injury from the gym that required physical therapy, Kamara had to stay behind, while Gloria and the children went to visit Gloria's parents in the neighboring city. They had planned a weekend at the beach, a much-anticipated family outing that Kamara was sad to miss, but knew was necessary for his recovery. Kamara stood at the gate, waving at the car as it disappeared down the dusty road. His children's excited chatter faded in the distance. He sighed, feeling a mix of loneliness and relief. The house, usually filled with laughter and activity, was now quiet. The dog trotted up to him, sensing his mood, and licked his hand comfortingly. He decided to make the most of the solitude, using the time to rest and recover, catching up on some work and enjoying the peace of the house. The first day passed eventfully. Kamara completed his physical therapy exercises, feeling the strain on his injured shoulder, but knowing it was necessary for his healing. As evening approached on the second day, dark clouds began to gather on the horizon. Kamara watched the sky, the heavy clouds mirroring his own sense of foreboding. The dog, sensitive to the changes in the atmosphere, whined softly and stayed close to his side. By nightfall, the storm had arrived in full force. The rain fell, drumming on the roof. The wind howled through the trees, bending them to its will. Kamara sat in the living room, a book in his hand, though he found it difficult to concentrate. The storm was fierce. Just as he was about to retire for the night, there was a knock on the door. It was barely audible over the roar of the storm, but the dog's sudden barking alerted Kamara. Puzzled, he approached the door. Visitors were very rare during such weather, and he wondered who could be seeking shelter at this hour. He opened the door to find two young women standing there, drenched to the bone, and their hair was plastered on their faces. They shivered in the cold, their eyes wide with desperation. "Please, we are looking for the house of our friend Peter," one of them said, her voice barely audible over the sound of the rain. "We were on our way to his party when our phone died, and we got lost." Kamara's heart went out to them. It was clear they were in distress, and the storm showed no signs of stopping. Come in, he said, stepping aside to let them enter. "You can dry off and use my computer to contact Peter." The women, grateful for his hospitality, stepped inside. Kamara quickly fetched some towels and offered them dry clothes. "Thank you so much," the other woman said. "My name is Kesho, and this is Shaba. We didn't know where else to go." "It's no problem," Kamara said, guiding them to the warmth of the living room. "Make yourselves comfortable. I'll get you something warm to drink." As Kamara bustled about preparing tea and making sure the women were comfortable, he couldn't shake a nagging feeling of unease. The storm outside raged on, and he hoped it would pass soon, allowing his unexpected guests to continue their journey safely. As Kamara busied himself in the kitchen, the girls changed into the dry clothes he had provided. They were grateful for the warmth that began to spread through their bodies. Kamara then set about making some tea. They all sipped their tea amidst interesting conversations. The conversation flowed easily, and the girls began to relax, feeling more at home. Kamara's dog sensed the change in the atmosphere and came over to sniff at the newcomers, wagging his tail. Just then, the doorbell rang. The taxi Kamara had ordered for the girls had arrived. The girls exchanged quick glances, and Kesho was the first to speak. "Thank you for everything, Kamara. You've been very kind. We should get going now." "Of course," Kamara said, standing up. "I'll get your clothes from the dryer." He made his way to the laundry room, where the dryer was humming softly. He gathered the women's clothes and headed to the bathroom, where they were. As he knocked on the bathroom door, he felt a pang of unease, which he quickly brushed aside. "Here are your clothes," Kamara said, opening the door slightly. What he saw next left him stunned. The girls were completely naked, standing before him with knowing smiles. "Please, you need to leave," Kamara urged, averting his eyes. "This isn't right." "But Kamara," Kesho said, stepping closer. "We don't want to leave just yet." "Yes," Shaba added, her voice hot. "We want to stay a little longer." Kamara felt his inner self weakening. He knew he should resist, but the temptation was too much. He took a deep breath, trying to summon the strength to insist they leave. "Please, just go," he managed to say, but his words lacked command. The girls moved in unison, their intentions clear. They caressed Kamara, touching his intimate parts. Kamara's mind raced with conflicting thoughts, but ultimately, he gave in to the moment. They all entered the bathroom and smashed. The first rays of dawn filtered through the curtains, casting a soft light over the living room. Kamara awoke, the events of the previous night flooding back to him in a rush. He felt a deep sense of shame and guilt. How could he have allowed himself to be seduced by strangers? He looked around and realized the girls were nowhere to be seen. His heart pounded as he got up and began searching the house. He hoped they had left quietly. But as he entered his wife's home office, his blood ran cold. His wife's academic documents, her students' exam papers that she was still marking were in ruins. Pieces lay scattered across the floor, torn apart beyond repair. How could this happen? Kamara muttered to himself, feeling a wave of panic. He knew how much these documents meant to his wife. He stood there, overwhelmed with despair. He heard the faint sound of laughter. He turned to see Kesho and Shaba standing in the doorway, their expressions mocking. "Good morning, Kamara," Kesho said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Did you sleep well?" "What have you done?" Kamara demanded, his anger rising. "Why did you destroy my wife's documents?" "Relax, we were just having a bit of fun," Shaba replied with a shrug. "It's no big deal." "No big deal?" Kamara asked in shock. "You need to leave right now, or I'll call the police." At the mention of police, the girl's expression changed. "If you call the police, we'll tell them everything," Kesho threatened. "We'll say you took advantage of us, and we are underage." Kamara's heart sank, wondering what he had brought himself into. Just then, the doorbell rang. It was their neighbor, his wife's friend, who often stopped by to check on the family. Kamara opened the door, trying to remain composed. "Hi! What a surprise! What brings you here so early?" "I was passing by and thought to check if you needed anything," the neighbor replied, her eyes narrowing as she noticed Kesho and Shaba. Before Kamara could respond, Kesho stepped forward. "We are friends of Kamara. We had a little too much to drink last night and needed a place to stay." The neighbor's expression turned to one of disbelief and anger. "Kamara, what is going on? This isn't like you." "It's not what it looks like," Kamara stammered. "They showed up last night during the storm and things got out of hand." The neighbor shook her head in disappointment. "I thought you were better than this, Kamara. I'll be leaving now." She turned to go. Kamara felt a deep sense of shame. He knew the neighbor would likely tell his wife everything. With the neighbor gone, Kamara's panic deepened. He needed to get the girls out of his house and figure out how to fix the situation. He turned to Kesho and Shaba, trying to remain calm. "All right, you need to leave now," Kamara said firmly. "I'll drive you to wherever you need to go, but you can't stay here." The girls exchanged a glance and nodded. "Fine," Kesho said, "we'll go, but you have to promise not to call the police." "I promise," Kamara replied, relief flooding over him. But they had to clean the house up first. As Kamara began cleaning up the mess in the office, he heard a loud thud behind him. He turned to see Kesho holding a flower vase, a rich grin on her face. Before he could react, she swung it at his head, and everything went black. When Kamara regained consciousness, he found himself tied to a chair. His head throbbed, and his vision was blurry. He struggled against the ropes, but they were tightly secured. "Welcome back," Ashaba said, standing over him. "We couldn't leave without a proper goodbye." "What do you want from me?" Kamara demanded, his voice hoarse. "You've already destroyed my wife's documents. Just leave me alone. We want to have some more fun," Kesho replied, her tone menacing. "And you're going to do exactly as we say. I will make sure your wife sees everything." Kamara's heart sank. He knew they were serious and that he was at their mercy. "You two are monsters," Kamara spat, his voice trembling with rage. "Why are you doing this?" "Because we can," Kesho replied, "and because it's fun. Let's play a game," Shaba suggested, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "Hide and seek." "Please, no games, just let me go. We'll count to 10. You better hide well, or there will be consequences." They untied Kamara, giving him a brief moment of freedom. His mind raced as he tried to think of a place to hide. He ran down the hallway, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew the house well, but his options were limited. He found a small closet and squeezed inside, trying to steady his breathing. He could hear the girls counting, their voices growing louder with each number. 8, 9, 10. "Ready or not, we are coming." The sound of their footsteps echoed through the house as they searched for him. Kamara held his breath, praying they wouldn't find him. He knew he had to stay quiet, but the fear was almost unbearable. He heard the door to the closet creak open, and Kesho's face appeared, a sinister smile playing on her lips. "Found you," she said softly. "Now it's time for the punishment." Kamara's heart sank as Kesho reached into the closet, grabbing him by the arm and yanking him out. "No more hiding, Kamara," she taunted. "It's time for the real fun." Shaba joined her, holding a kitchen knife in her hand. "Run if you can, but we'll catch you." Kamara knew he had to make a run for it. With a burst of adrenaline, he rushed past Kesho and sprinted down the hallway. He could hear them laughing behind him, their footsteps quickening as they gave chase. He burst through the front door, the cool night air hitting his face. He ran across the yard. His mind raced. He needed a plan, something to give him an advantage. He wondered what kind of girls these were, what kind of audacity they had. He changed direction and ran inside the dog's house. He knew he couldn't stay hidden forever. The girls were relentless, and they would find a way to get him. He needed to be prepared for whatever came next. He looked through the dog's house, searching for anything that could be used as a weapon. He found a broken piece of wood. He positioned himself near the door. He could hear the girls outside, their voices filled with cruel anticipation. "Kamara, come out and play," Shaba called. The door rattled as they tried to force it open. Kamara's heart pounded in his chest. He knew he had to be ready. The door finally gave way. Kesho and Shaba looked inside, their eyes gleaming with malice. "Looks like you found a little nice hiding spot," Kesho said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Too bad it won't save you." Kamara took a deep breath, his grip tightening on the broken wood. "Leave me alone," he said. "You've done enough." Shaba laughed, her eyes cold. "We're just getting started, Kamara. You should know that by now." They lunged at him, and Kamara swung the wood, catching Kesho on the arm. She cried out in pain, but it only seemed to fuel her rage. Sheba moved quickly, knocking the wood from Kamara's hand and pinning him to the ground. Kesho, clutching her bleeding arm, stood over him, her face twisted with fury. "You will pay for this," she hissed, kicking him in the ribs. Kamara gasped, the pain shooting through his body. Sheba tied him up once again. "You can't run from us, Kamara," she said, her voice filled with cruel satisfaction. "We will always find you." As dawn approached, Kamara knew his time was running out. He could barely move. His body was bruised and battered. The girls' laughter echoed in his ears, a constant reminder of his helplessness. They dragged him outside, where they had prepared a shallow grave. They tied him up with a rope, burying him up to his neck in the cold, damp soil. Kamara's heart pounded in his chest as they positioned a large stone above his head. "Any last words?" Kesho asked, her voice mocking. Kamara closed his eyes, bracing himself for the end. "Please just let me go," he pleaded, his voice barely a whisper, but the girls only laughed, their faces twisted with sadistic delight. "Goodbye, Kamara," Sheba said, raising the stone high above her head. The stone came crashing down, missing Kamara's head by mere inches. He gasped in shock, his eyes wide with terror. The girls then burst into laughter. "Did you really think we were going to kill you?" Kesho taunted. "This was all just a game, Kamara." Kamara could hardly believe what he was hearing. His mind raced as he tried to process their words. "Why?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Why would you do this?" "Because your wife shouldn't go around cheating her students like this. How dare she give us Fs after we studied so hard for our exam? This is so unfair," Sheba replied. Kamara then realized the girls were his wife's students, who were here for revenge. Kesho held up her phone, showing Kamara a video. "Look at this," she said, her eyes gleaming with malice. The video played, showing a footage of Sheba forcing herself on Kamara, while Kesho recorded the whole thing. "We've posted it all over your social media. Your wife will see it soon." Kamara's heart sank as he watched the video. His face flushed with shame and anger. "You're sick," he gasped, struggling against his restraints. "You will pay for this." "Oh, Kamara," Sheba said with a smirk. "You don't get it. We're not afraid of consequences. And besides, who is going to believe you?" The girls made sure to emphasize their point by showing Kamara his own Facebook profile, where they had uploaded the video. They had expertly crafted a narrative that painted Kamara in the worst light possible, implying that he had abused the girls. "Our mother worked so hard on the streets to get our school fees, and your wife is busy giving us Fs? No, we can't accept that," Kesho said, turning to leave. "I hope your wife receives our message clearly." The girls left laughing and rejoicing. Kamara watched helplessly as they disappeared into the distance. With the girls gone, Kamara was left alone in the shallow grave, the cold soil pressing against his skin. He could barely move, the rope biting into his flesh. Despair set in as he thought about the impact this would have on his family. The video, the destruction of his wife's documents, and the lies, everything seemed to be spiraling out of control. He used every ounce of energy he had to wriggle his body, hoping to dislodge the rope that bound him. The sun was rising, casting a pale light over the grave. Desperately, Kamara used his shoulder and neck to shift the rope, loosening its grip. The stone that had been poised above his head was now an ominous reminder of how close he had come to death. With a final surge of strength, he managed to free one of his arms. He worked tirelessly to untie the rest of the ropes and pull himself out of the grave. Naked, covered in dirt and bruised, Kamara emerged from the hole, gasping for air. He stumbled towards the house. In the house, the mess left by the girls was everywhere. Broken furniture, torn papers and documents. The sight was almost too much to bear. He searched for his phone, which he had lost during the struggle. It was lying on the floor in the office, and he quickly picked it up, went to his Facebook account and deleted the video that had already gone viral. His hands shook as he dialed Gloria's number, praying she would answer. Just then, his wife Gloria and the kids arrived, finding him naked in the messy house. "What's going on here, Kamara?" Gloria asked. Daddy, what is that snake?" his daughter asked, pointing at his pee-pee. The boy covered his sister's eyes. Out of breath and covered in dirt, Kamara begged his wife for assistance. His wife was shocked by Kamara's appearance, quickly called the local authorities. Kamara tried to explain what had happened, but his words were jumbled and incoherent with the stress and exhaustion. As the police arrived, Kamara was taken to the hospital to receive medical attention. The doctors treated his injuries and provided him with much-needed care. Kamara told Gloria everything that had happened and that those girls were her students. Gloria's friends had already sent her Kamara's video with the girls. Gloria called her school to inform them of what the students had done. Meanwhile, the authorities began their investigation, questioning Kamara about the girls and the events that had transpired. Days passed since the horrifying encounter, and the city was filled with rumors and gossip. Gloria was so embarrassed and ashamed as they laughed at her for having such an adulterous husband. Kamara's recovery was slow, but he cooperated fully with the police, providing them with every detail he could remember about Kesho and Shaba. The police managed to track down Kesho and Shaba, who were apprehended and charged with multiple crimes, including assault and vandalism, and they were also permanently expelled from the school. As the legal process folded, Kamara worked tirelessly to rebuild his life and repair the damage caused by the girls. He faced the challenge of restoring trust within his family and community. As the days turned into weeks, Kamara began to regain his strength. As he was seated on the couch, Gloria approached him quietly, handing him an envelope. "I want a divorce, Kamara." Kamara was shocked. But we already talked about this, honey. I didn't mean to cheat on you," Kamara explained. "You should have run out of the house the first time those brats seduced you. Or you should have sternly kicked them out of the house. But what did you do? Gave it into temptation?" Gloria said, disappointed. "Honey, please listen to me. I didn't mean to. You know me. All our 10 years of marriage, I have never cheated on you, and I would never have cheated on you if it wasn't for those girls." The argument continued. So what do you think of this story, guys? Do you think Gloria was right to divorce Kamara after what had happened? And what do you think Kamara should have done to avoid the temptation from the girls that night? Do you think it was Kamara's fault, or was he just a victim of the girls? Please comment what you think of this video down in the comment section. Don't forget to like this video, guys. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you're notified every time I post new videos. Thank you for watching, guys. Stay tuned for my next video. Bye bye.